You're watching TelecomTV from HPE Discover 2016 in London. And I'm joined now by Dave Sliter, who is VP and GM of the Communication Solutions business segment at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. Dave, thanks for joining us on TelecomTV again.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
We're going to talk about digital transformation and NFV and the implications for telcos. Now, as CSPs undertake their digital transformation programs with technologies such as NFV, what are the different approaches to implementing NFV that you're starting to see?
Yeah, we've seen a couple of broad trends over the last 12, 18 months or so. And on one hand, you're seeing particularly the tier ones, but not exclusively, taking a very broad-based approach. Sort of, they transform all of their network, all of their technology, all of their tools, and very difficult, all of their people, processes, etc. as well. So that broad-based approach is still underway. And it is happening a little slower and drawn out than we thought, in terms of there's just a lot of work to do there. The other approach that we're seeing that's interesting, that's happening a little faster than we thought, is these sort of business outcome-based projects. You have a platform that's end of life, and rather than refreshing it with older technology, you decide to stick your toe in the water for NFV, or you have a new service you want to launch. You may as well do that in an NFV context as well as opposed to old technology.
So that's an interesting alternative approach, almost like a bottom-up approach we're seeing. Have you got any examples of this in action?
Sure. As I say, there's a lot of these network elements that are end of life, so we're seeing things like session border controllers or AAA servers, etc. But the more intriguing ones to me, I think, are the new revenue-based services. So a lot of folks launching virtual CPE, for example, and the cost savings and both from a CapEx and an OpEx are tremendous. So rather than implementing that in a physical classic world, move as much as you can to the cloud and virtualize it. It's been phenomenally successful. Self-contained, small team, agile methodologies. You can roll them out pretty quick, and of course, new revenue is a wonderful thing for anyone.
Makes a lot of sense. What other macro trends are we seeing?
The other one that I find really intriguing is with the Internet of Things. We're finding that the use cases are so varied. Some of them, anything from a power meter to an automobile to a refrigerator, everybody's trying to embed connectivity in these devices. What we're seeing is the cost points of some of those use cases, power meters, for example, are, to make any money, the cost needs to be pretty low. And the demands aren't as stringent as the voice data network. You don't need 911, you don't need all the legacy 27 versions of call forwarding, etc. So we're seeing people build overlay dedicated networks for IoT. And when they build these overlay networks, they build them with NFV and software-defined methodologies and such to get the cost out. And it's not just the upfront capital expenditure, it's also the operating by automating and analytics enabled, etc. You can get the one-time cost out, but you can run it more efficiently when it hits the millions or billions of devices.
I guess another trend we're seeing concerns video, because video is driving network usage and taxing networks an awful lot. What are the NFV transformation implications for video?
It's really an interesting observation over the last year or two. You're reading the newspapers about all the consolidation happening, and the network providers are buying content, the content providers are investing in networks, etc. That's all coming together. And as you say, the just trying to run that video through the existing mobile networks is extremely taxing. So if anything, NFV and SDN and such are more important and more critical, more compelling in a video sense. If you think of an event like an Olympics or a World Cup, you want to ramp up 100 new channels. They're there for 30 days, then you turn them down. So the peaks are higher, the valleys are lower. It's classic applicability to NFV. But what we're seeing is, because of all this consolidation, there's less awareness in many cases of some of the parts of these converged companies. So there's a big opportunity, but they're a little bit behind in the curve.
So how do you see all this playing out over the next, say, 12, 18 months?
I think both of the approaches I talked a minute ago are going to apply. The broad transformation will absolutely continue on. I'm not trying to discredit that in any way. I'm an old telecom guy. I've lived through voice over IP and mobility and the old "can you hear me now" jokes, and you know, it's always difficult to predict when that, you know, that final piece will transform, but it always does in the end. Very few new landlines being installed. So I think that broad-based transformation will absolutely continue on, and particularly, as I said earlier, with the Tier 1s. But the interesting thing to me is this project-based, this bottom-up, this business outcome-based, where you've got an end of life or you've got a new revenue service that you want to launch, you know, a nice contained project. Those type of things are going to happen a lot faster, particularly in the short to medium term. And then I think in the end, it's all going to be NFV and SDN and those type of cloud technologies. So multiple paths to get there, but in the end, we get to the same place.
Fascinating discussion. Dave, thanks for joining us on Telecom TV.
You're welcome.